They told me to clear the room before the auditors got there in the morning. There was still someone inside it. I was on night float that week, which meant anything unassigned ended up with me. Restocks, bed turnovers, last-minute prep before inspections. Around 2:10 a.m., Charge texted me a room number that didn't format right. Just 3 digits, no wing letter. She said, "That space shouldn't be active. Clear it and lock it." I took Marisol with me because it was faster with 2 people. The corridor was off the old imaging hall, past a badge reader that still worked, but wasn't on any map that I knew. No signage on the door. The plate where a number should have been was blank, like it had been removed but never replaced. I remember thinking it was storage, or maybe an overflow bay they forgot to shut down in the system. I scanned in anyway. The lock clicked, like it recognized me. Inside, the lights were already on. The room looked like a patient room that had been assembled from parts that didn't match. The bed was newer. The wall monitor had an older interface, wrong color scheme. The whiteboard had writing on it, dry erase that had ghosted into the surface. Looked like a name, a date that was 3 weeks off. The patient was sitting up. She didn't react when we came in, not right away at least. Oxygen cannula in place, IV running to a pump that had a different brand logo than the rest of the floor. No alarm sounds, no telemetry tones, just the low hum of the air unit. Marisol said, "We're here to prep the room." The patient looked at the door, not at us. Then she asked, "Are they closing it again this time?" It wasn't said like a question. I asked her name and checked for a wristband. She had one. The print was slightly faded, like it had been on longer than it should have been. Marisol tried to scan it. It didn't take. We stepped out to the workstation and tried to pull her up. I entered the number we'd been given. The system rejected it. I tried nearby rooms, then a wildcard search for the name on the board. Nothing matched. Marisol said, "Try the DOB." I scanned the wristband again at the station. It pinged, then opened a chart that didn't match her face. Different age, different diagnosis, assigned to a room on the other side of the building that I knew was occupied. The chart said she'd been discharged 2 days ago. We went back in. The call button was lit. I pressed it to test it. No chime, no alert on the panel outside. I checked the monitor. It was showing vitals, but there was no network indicator. No central feed. It was like the data was never going anywhere, never leaving the room. The patient watched me this time. "Did they tell you not to write anything down?" she said. Marisol said, "We're gonna go get someone." I called the charge nurse. I tried to keep my voice calm and even. I said we had a patient in a room that wasn't in the system and I couldn't place her. There was a pause, longer than I expected for that kind of a problem. She said, "Don't log anything yet. I'm coming." She arrived, alone, not in a hurry. She stood in the doorway for a second, looking at the whiteboard, then at the monitor, then at the patient. Her expression didn't match. She asked me for the room number we'd been given, and I told her. She nodded once, said, "Okay, step out, please." Marisol said, She's not in the system, though." The charge said, "I heard you. Step out." We stood in the hall. 2 minutes later, 2 more people came down from admin. I didn't know them. Not scrubs. One had a tablet. They didn't introduce themselves. They went in. The door closed. Marisol said, "This is not right." I said, "We did what we were told." When the door opened again, the charge came out first. "You weren't supposed to go in there," she said, not raising her voice. I said, "We were told to clear it, though." She looked at me for a second. "That room is being decommissioned. We'll handle it. Go back to your floor, please." Marisol said, "But there's a patient." The charge cut in, still calm. "Go back to your floor." We went. I had meds to pass out, a bed to turn, At 3:05 a.m., I realized I'd left my pen light in that room, so I went back. The corridor looked the same until the turn. Then it didn't. There was a freestanding sign where the hallway narrowed. It said environmental abatement in progress, the kind that we use when there's mold or a spill. The door had a temporary seal across the frame, not tape, a fitted barrier with a zipper access that was closed and tagged. There was a paper notice clipped to it with a date that matched that morning. No room number, no blank plate, nothing else. The notice and a red tag that said "Do not enter." I stood there longer than I should have. There was no sound from inside. The hum was gone. The air felt different, like the unit for that section had been turned off. A man I didn't recognize came up behind me and said, "This area is restricted." I said, "I left something in there." He said, "It's not accessible." I said, there's a patient in there, though." He didn't look at me when he answered. "No, there isn't," he said. I went back to the station and tried again. I searched for the name from the whiteboard. I searched variations. I checked transfers and discharges in the last 24 hours. Nothing lined up. Later, near shift change, I found a partial match. Same last name. Same first name. First off by one letter. The status read reassigned, but there was no location field. No timestamps, nothing that made sense, no clues. I clicked into the activity log. There was a gap. Not empty, just not there. When daylight shift came in, nobody mentioned the extra room. Nobody asked about a missing patient. The charge handed off like it was a normal night. I didn't bring it up in the group. I didn't say anything about it. After my shift, I walked the corridor again in the daylight. The sign was gone. The door was different now, not sealed, not labeled. It opened to a storage closet. Shelves, boxes, everything where the bed and the equipment had been. But there was no bed, no monitor, no whiteboard. The room had changed in a matter of hours, and the patient was nowhere to be seen. I checked the directory at the junction. The sequence of room numbers skipped where that one would have been. I asked Marisol if she wanted to file something. She said, "File what?" I didn't have an answer that would be accepted by a form or any formal process. Weeks later, I tried to find the chart again. The partial match now was gone too. No reassignment, no trace. The search returned 0 results for that name. I still think about the way the charge said not to log anything. Not like a warning, like a step they expected me to follow. The next morning, the audit passed. There were no irregularities.